Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my reflections this Saturday at Gigiri, that's the UN complex in Nairobi, Kenya. Yesterday, civil society groups from across the country joined in marking the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR. A number of us got a chance to speak at the forum, highlighting several pertinent issues requiring the attention of the global and local human rights fraternity in entrenching the human rights discourse. I used the opportunity to call for the ratification of the Convention on the Protection of All Persons Against Enforced Disappearances by the government of Kenya, which is a signatory already to the convention. As the coordinator of the Missing Voices Coalition, this is my reason for being. I had a chance to consult with a brilliant colleague I was seated next to from the Kayole Social Justice Center, and we concurred that it was an important opportunity to raise the issue in the presence of Kenya's Attorney General. The Missing Voices Coalition exists precisely because of the prevalence of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances committed mainly by those in the security sector. In broad terms, the prevalence of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances emanates from the desire to maintain the status quo in which the poor and weak are cannon fodder for the rich and powerful. They are expected to provide cheap labor to enterprises owned by the propertied class, both local and international, but not to protest or demand any rights, even when they are being killed. This is the logic created decades ago when Kenya became a colony. In fact, at first it was a private company registered in London, with its economy controlled by white settlers and power controlled by the colonial office. When the colonial office and the white settlers, who had then gained a lot of political power, when they lost that power at independence, the power, instead of going to the people, was appropriated by black settlers. It was only in 2010 that citizens gave themselves an opportunity to appropriate the power back to themselves, declaring their sovereignty and scaring the hell out of the elite. This is an important reflection today as the country marks 60 years of independence. I also used the opportunity at Gigiri to respond to issues raised by a commissioner from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, who was representing the African Union. He had raised the questions about, one, the protracted nature of African conflicts, two, why there was so much attention on Gaza and Ukraine and not Sudan, DRC, and so on. In response, I took the opportunity to expound on two problems facing the AU and its institutions. I have given a lot more flesh here as opposed to yesterday's when I had time constraints. And so I go to the issues. The first one, institutional failure at the level of the AU. The African Union has many frameworks that can, if implemented, resolve many of the human rights challenges that were being discussed in that forum. The problem is the usual one: lack of commitment and failure to promote solutions that actually focus on citizens. I gave the example of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, or ACDEC in short, which, if implemented faithfully, could solve the problem of stolen elections and obviate the need by the political elite to kill and murder citizens just to preserve stolen power. The African Union continues to rely on the goodwill of governments to perform its roles. Those who run most AU and affiliated institutions have failed to grab the initiative and to shape those institutions in a way that can empower the citizens that they serve. The leaders of these institutions have therefore found it difficult to leverage support from the masses, and their own legitimacy has remained tenuous at best. Number two, the legitimacy crisis also manifests in the leadership of sub-regional institutions like the East African Community. In Nairobi, representatives to the EAC are chosen purely on the basis of loyalty to political parties and pedigree. Kenya's system only succeeds in exporting the infertile national political quarrels to the EAC. These representatives spend time in Nairobi. That is when they are not traveling all over with funds from donors and pretending to be meeting citizens in five-star hotels. So they rarely have time to read, research, and understand what regional integration is all about. These contradictions have ensured that these institutions do not enjoy popular legitimacy among the people. The leadership of these institutions cannot leverage support from the people, even when the institutions suffer inertia as a result of micromanagement by political and bureaucratic elites in the various capitals. Number 3, rejection of democracy by African elites. This is an even bigger problem. Today in Nairobi, people's freedom of expression, the cornerstone of human rights, has been totally criminalized. Citizens cannot protest against anything anymore. It doesn't matter whether the protest is about a war that is several thousands of kilometers away, like that in Sudan and Gaza and so on. The government of Kenya is scared of any expression of the people's sovereignty as entrenched in the constitution of the country, the very document that gives them their positions of power, privilege, and perks. The constitution is treated as an inconvenience when it comes to empowering citizens, but it is a legitimate document when it comes to serving the interests of the political, bureaucratic, and business elite in the country. This state of affairs is reflected in many African countries at this very present moment. All in all, the meeting at Gigiri was a great opportunity to debate. We know global governance itself is suffering multiple crises as the world turns a sharp corner towards real multipolarism, away from the madness of a highly polarizing unipolar system. But we should never shy from using such platforms to challenge entrenched, bad, elitist, anti-people realities. Thank you.